Alright folks, this is Lab A for Module 3 exercise. Our purpose is to use a CAML query to issue a query against the list to return some data to display in our custom web parts. So to get started, you want to open up on your E drive lab files, both the starter and the solution file. I have them side by side. Alright, so here our code is we have a markup that includes a list view item. Okay, so currently it's hard-coded with a bunch of to-dos. So our goal here is to write a CAML query that is processed by the server and returns data, and we perform a data bind to populate the list item. So, and we also have a code behind file where on pre-render we're going to new up a SP query. So to make quick work of this, we're going to go to the solution folder to copy the CAML query now. All right, so we know it's a solution because the project folder has the lab file solutions in them. Okay, so we want to open up this web part page. All right, so actually that's the manifest. We want to go to the web part code behind file. All right, so we have an SP query equal new SP query, and that includes a CAML query between line 34 through line 45. Now there are two sections to this query, so let's copy this. Okay. And let's paste in here. Now we look at this query, the line 34 through line 45 is our predicate, is our where clause. We are ending, so two conditions. So there are two conditions that we have to both has to both evaluate to true for record to come back. So the first field is the cap expense amount, okay, and the data type is currency. Now these are defined in your in the project that defines these lists. Okay, so these are part of site columns. We also have another condition where the cap expense status equals pending. Okay, so that's our filtering criteria. There will be a list which we in a moment we'll see how we can send this where clause along with the view field. Okay, so think of the view field as your column projection, while the where section is your query is your where statement. So here in the view field, we are simply looking for these following fields. We are not looking for every single field. There might be other fields in the list, but based on this query, our view field includes only the unique ID, the requester, category, description, amount. Okay, so that's the column we want to have returned from our query. All right, so let's go to solution. And the next block of code between line 56 through line 60. Now this part of the code identifies based on our current SP context, okay, the current SP web. The list is named expenditure requests. In order for this web part to work, this list must exist in the current web, which this web part is deployed to, or the solution is deployed to. So here we're going to paste it. All right. So here we have it. Web. The variable web now contains a reference to the SP web objects hosting the SharePoint web parts. Now the list variable points to the expenditure requests. The get item submits the query for processing. Now, because this is all server-side object model, there's no separate need to call update or making a connection or asynchronous anything. This is completely on the server side. This is a farm solution. All right, so calling the get item query returns an SP item collection. Now those collection supports a get data table that returns a standard data table object that we can use as a data source to the LST expenses, which is the list view. All right, so here our project is using finance.contaso.com. Now it's a good idea to use debug and start without debugging. Okay, now starting without debugging here. It comes up. It's a web part, so we need to edit the page and insert the web parts. So click on edit. Oops, I must click it twice. All right, so let's go back, edit, insert web part. All right, it's not the expenditure request. That's not it. That's the other project. The project we just built is Contaso web parts, and under Contaso web parts you'll find an expense checker web part, and that's the one we want to add. So let's click on add. All right, the list doesn't contain data yet. We haven't added the code that connects the data to this list. However, by looking at this, we know our query actually is okay. We don't have any typo in our queries. We don't have any mismatching elements, so on and so forth, that the server will reject the query. So it looks like the query did go to the server, it did come back, it's not throwing exceptions. Our next step is to change the ASP.NET, is to change the web part list view templates to have it data bind with the data source. All right, so this part so far up to line 60 seems to execute without any problems, so we're going to switch over to the layout. So this is the part we are going to perform a data bind, so let's go to the source section. So right now everything's hard-coded with the word to do, and that has to change. So let's go to our solution folder, save ourselves some time. Okay. Now in the solution folder, let's go to the markup as well. Right there. Okay, and you'll notice down here we got a bunch of eval functions. Now eval is a one-way binding, reading from the data table columns that's currently serves as a data context for this list view ASP.NET control. Okay, so here's our list item template. So each item evaluated through the data table context becomes one row in the item template. So line 34 through line 51 repeats for every single rows of data. So the eval is one-way binding, so we're only reading from the data table and place them in the value attribute. Okay, now usually the only thing that's different is probably the amount we are formatting them with a currency. All right, so to make the copy and paste neater, I'm going to just shrink. Notice line 11, there's a little collapsible symbol on the left, so I can have the entire content template shrink into a single line. So I can copy just that one thing instead of drag and drop my cursor all over the place. So I'm going to copy that line, right click, copy that. Cool. Fantastic. And let's go to expense checker. Again, shrink line 11, just like I did before. Paste over that. All right, so that should have all the evals. So I'm going to start to debug. Okay, yeah, that's the currency format on line 49. All right, so C2. All right, so I think this is all good. I can save this and start debugging. Use the debug, start without debugging there. Cool. All right, so it's going to bring up the website. All right, so you can see that there is this list with the data included. All right, we also have approve and reject button that we are going to implement in the next exercise in Lab A. It will be a separate video for this. Okay, and there is the name, that is the requester category, 2 buttons there. Okay. That's it. And there's a little 1 here that's really just a pagination thing. We only have 1 page worth of data. You'll see the amount are all below 500 and all have the status of pending. And that concludes this lab.